Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Van Helsing, another movie from 2004. This movie has Hugh Jackman in it, playing a rugged loner type character who can't remember his past. Does that sound familiar? If it does, it really should. It might sound a little bit, more like his other character that he's well known for that had a fantastic ending. Oh, what's that character's name? It doesn't matter. So, Van Helsing, it came out in 2004, like I said. Um, I was super hyped for this movie. I was already a fan of the original Universal monster movies. I was a fan of The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. Am a fan of The Mummy and Mummy Returns. So the fact that this movie was made by the same guy who gave us The Mummy and Mummy Returns had me all sorts of hyped. I was expecting something with a very similar tone, similar sort of action and things like that. And he does kind of give us that. He does kind of deliver that because, well, when you're watching this movie, you see the fact that like if the Mummy and the Mummy Returns is a swashbuckling Indiana Jones esque action adventure, these are Van Helsing. Van Helsing is the tone is similar to that of the Camp Cheese Universal monster movie stuff, but with more action sprinkled in. And that's what I get from it. Like that's how I feel about it. Because when you're watching this, the acting is kind of on point with that, and it's over dramatic. It's over the top. It's just like, oh man, like I can't. Oh, you didn't tell him about me. Oh, I hope you get yours, Van Helsing. Oh, Van Helsing, you murderer. It's this sort of like over the top, exaggerated kind of thing. It's exciting. The fight in Paris with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at the beginning of the movie. If you're like me and you had Van Helsing, the London assignment, then there's setup to that going in. Is it sort of unnecessary to own that one single anime adventure? Yeah, but it was worth the $12 at the time. I mean, I had nothing else going on in my life. I was 12 to 14 years old and I had a little extra cash. Or either that, I hit my mom and dad up. I don't really remember. All I know is I don't have the London assignment anymore. I think I got rid of that DVD because it serves no purpose. I was so hyped for this movie, guys, that like I actually had the book adaptation. I bought the book so I could get more hyped for the movie. Like I legitimately, I'm sure if I went back to my parents' house, I could find the book somewhere, and it's there. It exists. I think I bought it mainly because the poster. I really like the look of the poster. You got Hugh Jackman with like that spindly like sharp thingamajig, and he's got a gun or a crossbow, and I don't know. I just the book looked cool, the cover looked cool because there's a poster, but anyway, so Van Helsing, the movie. Let's actually dive into the movie. The the director and the producers, the designers, they wanted to kind of put a new twist on these classic characters, especially like Frankenstein and Wolfman, characters you don't really see a whole lot of in media, a whole lot. And so they gave Frankenstein's monster a very exaggerated sort of look about him, with electricity all over the place, and you see it. It's really cool. It's got a really solid look, and I love the look of Frankenstein. Wolfman is a bulky, like massive dog. I think the Wolfman was probably their most simple design that they could go with. Like, yeah, man. I mean, we could just make it a big angry dog. Yeah, it's a good idea. That works out real good. I like that. Yeah, of course. Dracula and his brides, I think, have obviously the most attention to detail about them because those are your main villains, and you kind of want them to stand out. Dracula's design, once he goes into the vampire mode, and you see it at the beginning or at the end of the movie for the first time, it looks really cool. It's a good look. It's very nightmarish. It's very, big monster. His brides also have good aesthetics about them. They're like the white vampire look flying around. It's just very ghosty, ghouly. It's a banshee esque. It's just especially the one redheaded one that's laughing the whole time as she's chasing. That's kind of daunting. That's a little terrifying. Um, but that it's a really good look. The movie has a really good look about it. I think it's what's honestly that movie and maybe a few other things kind of inspired what we now know as steampunk. That's how I felt watching it. I was like, I feel like I've seen this in some steampunk stuff. I don't know. You guys comment below. Let me know if you think the same thing. I don't really care. But this movie, the CGI in it, kind of like with the Mummy and Mummy Returns, looked good for 2004, but it's not really aged that well. You don't hate looking at it. It's not hard to look at. It's not ugly or anything. It's just when it's happening. Like, okay, well, that's good looking CGI, but it's still CGI. There's not a lot of practical effects. I think the majority of the practical effects they kind of sunk into the tools that Van Helsing uses, as well as Frankenstein's makeup. It's perfect. It looks good. I think this movie has garnered a lot more hate than what was deserved. The box office that it should have grown more at the box office, to be honest, because this movie deserved at least 2 other movies, maybe 1. I don't know. I think the movie should have been an actual franchise because it's fun. It's a fun action movie in the vein of The Mummy and The Mummy Returns because it's obviously made by the same guy, but whereas those are a lot more lighthearted, kind of like old action movies with Errol Flynn, like Robin Hood. This is sort of like when you watch the original Dracula, the tone in there is it's just kind of dark and depressing in some parts, but it's still campy. It's still kind of over the top, and that's kind of what this movie is. It's still campy and over the top, but some of the tones just kind of bring it down, like the hero's journey that he goes on. It's a tragic hero's journey because he does save the day. He just doesn't get the girl at the end, and it's good. I think it's a good movie, and the outfits are so zany. The outfits in this movie are so crazy and over the top. Like, I could not imagine how long it probably took Hugh Jackman to get all that leather on. And you start looking at his jacket, like like that shoulder piece is a separate piece from the actual jacket, and it's just there's so much going on with it. And then Kate Beckinsale, she's probably got the simplest outfit, but like it looks uncomfortable just watching it in the movie. She looks uncomfortable. And she even said in interviews afterwards that, she hated wearing it because it was uncomfortable. So yeah, it makes sense. One of the big scenes in the movie was the ballroom dance scene where Van Helsing's going to trade Frankenstein for Kate Beckinsale's character. And that scene is awesome. It's this big, sort of elegant, ridiculous scene of wireworks with gymnastic people, and there's a dude who can shoot fire out of his mouth. It's really like a lot of money went into that one scene, and it paid off because it's a good scene. That's a fun scene, and bit of an issue though. Okay, so when you're watching that, and she's dancing with Dracula in the ballroom, and then it looks like she's dancing by herself, and then after Van Helsing rescues her and saves her, pulls her up to the top, Dracula says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Van Helsing." And then all of a sudden, all these guys turn to vampires. Hold up. When they were dancing, and he does the dip in front of the mirror, shouldn't she had only seen herself and nobody else in the background? I mean, look. I like the idea of getting chased out by vampires, and then that friar figuring out what that grenade is for. And drops it. And it's fun. It's just the logic's lost there. There's a whole lot of goofs in this movie that when you kind of like look it up, you're like, oh man, they there's just some stuff they just let slide, and just maybe they didn't want to do an extra shoot. I don't know. It's just so much stuff made it through the cracks. But I enjoy watching this movie, and I think it deserves a rewatch. If you're one of these people that's like, oh man, no, this movie's bad, like no thank you, give it a watch. If you like The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, and you can tolerate G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, we'll get into that one later because that's a bit of a guilty pleasure. I like that movie. It's terrible, but I like it. But yeah, no, if you can do all those things, rewatch Van Helsing and tell me that there's just not some parts in there that are just really good, like the one-on-one scenes with Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale They're really good. Like, those are two actors that just elevate the movie when they're by themselves, and the little piece of humanity, the smiles, the looks, it's really good. And then it's all encapsulated in this big, wonderful cheese fest of a film. So I'm going to honestly, you know what? I was going to do a 3.5 just like I did with my other one. But I'm going to give this movie a solid 4 out of 5 stars. If you don't like it, give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.